So-called Free Gaza movement is reportedly sending 2 more ships in another attempt to break Israel and Egypt's blockade of the Gaza Strip. Now, the movement's first attempt to break the blockade failed when Israeli commandos boarded one of the vessels and killed 9 of the activists on board. Now, here's what Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about the incident earlier today.
This wasn't a love boat. This was a hate boat. These weren't pacifists. They weren't peace activists. These were violent supporters of terrorism.
Now, although the international community is condemning Israel, research by the Middle East Media Research Institute proves that Netanyahu is correct. Now, it suggests that the passengers on board sought deliberately to provoke Israel and were prepared to martyr themselves for this cause. Now, one Kuwaiti activist on board told his family, quote, "If I am martyred during my voyage, do not be sad. I will be in paradise because I am going to wage jihad for the sake of Allah." Now, others reportedly prepared wills before the Israelis even boarded the boat, all of which suggests that they knew just the sort of response they would provoke. And joining me now with analysis and to take us through just what happened on the boat is the Israeli ambassador to the United States, also a best-selling author, former IDF soldier, Michael Oren. Michael, welcome back to the program. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be here, Sean.
All right, first of all, you know, the one thing that stood out in the comments that Bibi made today, again, this was not the love boat, this was the hate boat, but he also said Israel will never apologize for defending itself. Hamas is receiving these weapons, firing them into Israel, 7 to 10,000. Israel sets up a blockade to stop the rearming of Hamas, whose charter calls for the destruction of Israel. Why is there worldwide condemnation when Israel is only clearly just defending himself against a terror group?
It's a very good question, because the fact of the matter is it's not just Israel's policy to blockade Hamas, it's also Egypt's policy. The United States also supports our policy of preventing Hamas from acquiring further long-range rockets that can hit just about any city in southern Israel, and they're expanding that range all the time. It's a good question.
All right, Michael, let's go through. We have some brand new video tonight that I want to put up on the screen for our audience to take a look at. The rioters, you can see before the commandos even got on the ship, you can see right there on the video here, they were preparing for the soldiers to board, you know, wielding, you know, metal poles and swinging them around as we see in the video. We've got other new video of the rioters waiting for the soldiers to board and then swinging the poles and glass bottles and slingshots over the edge of the ship. I mean, it couldn't be any more evident or clear that they were there for that purpose. They don't look like peace activists to me. Your reaction?
Well, if your viewers will look on YouTube, they'll see an earlier video taken before the so-called activists got on the ship. And they are chanting the Islamic equivalent of death to the Jews, death to the Jews. The organization that sent them, known by the initials IHH, has been linked by the CIA and by other international intelligence agencies as a extreme Islamic group with links to Al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations. It's even been linked, Sean, to the 1999 attempt to blow up Los Angeles airport.
You know, I think the best point that Prime Minister Netanyahu made at his press conference today is, you know, what would any other country do? What would America do if rockets were being fired into their cities? You know, how would America behave under similar circumstances? I've got to believe if one rocket were fired at any American city, any American school, any American hospital, any American town, that the response would be swift, it would be sure, and I doubt there'd be worldwide condemnation. There seems to be, and the phrase that Bibi used today is Israel is guilty prior to being proven guilty. Why is there that attitude worldwide? Is there a strain of anti-Semitism in your view?
Well, let me first say that I couldn't agree with you more, with the Prime Minister's more. Can you imagine if members of the U.S. Coast Guard had to go onto a ship in which arms were being smuggled to violent entities around the United States trying to kill Americans, and the Coast Guard soldiers were met with clubs and knives and perhaps even weapons? How would they react to defend themselves?
Well,
why this is happening? I'm certain there's an element of anti-Semitism involved in it. There's a great prejudice against Israel, and there's a world out there that actually supports Hamas, including people who participated in this terrible flotilla.
And people forget Hamas's charter, Hamas in charge of Gaza, calls for the destruction of the state of Israel. Let's go back to the videotape here as we see these rioters now, you know, as soon as the IDF agents, the commandos, get on board the ship, throwing stun grenades, if you look at the video there, and plates at Israeli soldiers. We literally have video of soldiers being hit with metal poles and chairs on the deck of the ship, and video of a soldier being thrown over by some of the rioters here. I'm not really particularly sure. They're being hit with metal rods, as you can see. I mean, whacking and swinging. Now, tell us, originally the soldiers went in with what was the equivalent of a paintball gun. Explain that and how they then had no other choice but to switch to live ammunition.
Well, we've intercepted a great number of these flotillas in the past, and even in this flotilla, which was made of 6 ships, 5 of the ships basically surrendered without violence resistance. It was only on this very large Turkish ship where our soldiers were greeted with these clubs and knives, and perhaps even live ammunition fire, because 2 of our soldiers sustained serious gunshot wounds. And yes, they did come down, our soldiers did come down, armed with paintball guns in an attempt to peacefully take over the ship. And only when they were beset and beaten, and as you saw, one soldier thrown over the side, did they have to resort to their sidearms to defend themselves.
It was evident in the video that the story that the Prime Minister was telling was accurate and true, which is frustrating, especially in light of worldwide condemnation. It seems like this was purposely provoked, that this was a strategy that was put in place, which tells me, and they have now stated, that they are going to now try and break this blockade once again. Will Israel once again defend itself? And do you expect that it's going to get worse?
Well, keep in mind, Israel has no desire to blockade the people of Gaza. We let over 100 truckloads of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip every day. There's no shortage of food and medicine, but we will not open the sea to shipments of rockets to the Gaza Strip. And anybody who tries to block that blockade without transferring their cargoes to us so that we can give it to responsible entities in Gaza will be stopped. Israel will defend itself, Sean.
Well, as the United States would defend itself. Michael Oren, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it tonight. And let not your heart be troubled. Our great American panel straight ahead.
Don't you know we let it